Awesome. Well, first off, congrats on the movie. It is wonderful.
Thank you.
And has restored my faith in cinema a little bit this year. 'Cause it's
That's
not
nice of you
been,
to
not been
say.
the best year.
No.
So I'm kind of fascinated with stop motion as a film goer. I
Yeah.
used to watch obviously the Harryhausen movies
Yeah.
when I was younger and stuff like Morph and Aardman. What is it for you as a filmmaker and animator that this kind of animation kind of speaks to you and you always want to kind of work on this?
I've loved stop motion since I was a kid. I don't think that makes me unusual. I think a lot of people, find something really appealing about it. But for me, it was probably more appealing than really any other form of filmmaking. And I don't know exactly why that is. Over the years, I've tried to analyze the psychology of it and figure out what drew me to this form of filmmaking. Why have I made this my life's work? I loved the Harryhausen creature features when those would come on a Saturday matinee. It was like appointment television for me. I just absolutely adored those films. And there was something that was just so beautiful and charming and weird about it and just interesting. And I think something clicked for me the other day when I was watching my 3-year-old son play with his action figures, his dolls, his superhero, dolls, and he was putting on the voices, and they were going on these little adventures. And I was just watching him across the room, and it reminded me of the feeling that I had when I was a kid, and when I was doing that, and then when I saw those things on the big screen, like a Harryhausen puppet, which is effectively like it's evocative of a child's plaything being brought to life. There's something about it captures that sense of imaginative play when we're kids. I think there is something that's really primal and beautiful about stop motion, that it's handcrafted, it's made by human hands, and so it has this beauty and a charm and an imperfection to it that's fundamentally human, but it feels evocative of that time in our lives where we have these incredible imaginations, and we're bringing something a physical thing that exists, we can see, the inner life that it has, and I think that's something that we tend to lose as we grow up. And for weirdo Peter Pans like me, it's something you never lose. So I think there is something that's really magical about it.
You spoke there about being obviously a family man, you're a father and stuff like that. Was that kind of important to you when obviously this story came about, that it's a family-based story and obviously a father and son and a mother and all that kind of stuff? Was that what inspired you to kind of become a director with this one?
Yeah, I mean, being a father was not only what inspired me to want to make this film, but it's what inspired me to create Laika. When I was I've worked in animation for 20 years, but Laika's been around for 10 years, and when we started the company, that really, me becoming a father was fundamentally the impetus. It's when I became a father, like most of us, it really does change everything. You start to look at the world in a different way. You see things in a way that you hadn't before. Things that used to not matter at all to you now become incredibly important, and things that used to be significant now make no difference whatsoever. And so when I saw the kinds of things that my children were exposed to, the kinds of things that were family entertainment, and I saw just the vapid sensory assault that they were subjected to, and it was so different from the kinds of things that I loved growing up, the kinds of stories and the kind of movies that I watched. I didn't want to be a part of making those kinds of stories. I wanted to do something that were stories that were meaningful, that were resonant, that enriched my children's life, didn't detract from it. And so that whole thing of making things of meaning that offer a hopeful, uncynical view of the world was something that was really at the core of why Laika began in the first place 10 years ago, and it's certainly why I wanted to make this film. It captures that aspect, that time in our lives when we go from being kids to being adults, and just the things that we gain and the things that we leave behind along the way. And there is an aspect of loss to that period of our lives where we're confronted with these things and how we respond. And that's something that we explore within this film. And as someone who grew up and has gone through that experience, as we all have, and now someone who's a father looking back and seeing what my kids are going through, that really was the fundamental impetus for me to want to make this movie.
Another great thing there's many great things in this movie, but obviously you've got an amazing cast in this. Mm-hmm. Did you kind of draw up a list beforehand and think, if we could have the dream cast, this is the list, and then we'll kind of filter downwards? But I mean, was it the case that Matthew McConaughey, Charlize Theron, you thought if we can get these people, then it would just make the film even better? Yeah,
I mean, when you start thinking about casting on these movies, we started, casting the film 3 years ago, and you have a dream list. You have, your wish list of people that you would absolutely love to work with. But, look, we're an independent animation house in the armpit of the Pacific Northwest of America. We're a tiny little studio. We don't think that, we're definitely not a part of some big multinational media conglomerate. So the idea that you could attract, actors of that caliber to your project, it's a bit of a pipe dream. It's like, well, on a wing and a prayer, you send something out, you start, talking with agents and seeing, hey, I hope maybe this guy would be interested. I don't know. But, it really was incredibly humbling for us that the actors of this caliber, many of whom have never worked in animation before, wanted to be a part of this project. And I think that really spoke to what spoke to us about the project, which is it really was, it really got to, they wanted to make films for their families as well. They wanted to make films of meaning for their families that they could share with them, they could experience together. In fact, Matthew, when we sent him the script, he read the script as a bedtime story to his kids. Oh, wow. And I think that was really exciting for us, that these actors who could be in any project in the world wanted to be a part of our weird little movie. It was pretty great.
And so now you've directed one. Another one on the horizon, maybe somewhere down the line.
Someday, at some point. Yeah, I mean these films take a long time to make. We've been working on Kubo for 5 years, and so they're definitely, it did definitely scratch an itch for me creatively. It's kind of marked a bit of the evolution for me as an artist. I've been working in animation for 20 years, and to creatively lead a project was incredibly challenging, but it was really rewarding. It was by far the most creatively satisfying experience of my whole career. I just absolutely loved it. And I want to do it again, but I need a little bit of rest first.
Well, it's a wonderful movie, and congratulations on it again. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yes.
Nice.
Hey